Hi, ladies. Today is Sunday, April 4th, 2021. Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to everyone. I wanted to, 90 weeks postpartum. So, Michaela will be 21 months on the 8th of April. It's crazy. I almost have a 2 year old. And look, it's already April. Look how quickly this year is just going by. I don't know. I don't think it's only me, but it's just flying by. I mean, we're already in April. It feels like it was just January. So I wanted to give you an update on a few things, all for the most part regarding IVF. First, let me talk about the soft discs. Um, I told you about doing the soft dip that could possibly help with fertility. They did not work for me, but I only tried them one cycle, so no one said anything is a miracle. So and they might work for you one cycle. They just didn't work for me. I tried them 3 times during one cycle, and I ended up still getting my period. So clearly, it wasn't successful, but again, that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. So if you are trying to conceive and you want to still try the soft cup assistance method, that I tried 3 times during one cycle. um do it because I don't think it could hurt, and I definitely see their point with um helping to keep the sperm inside. So if you insert it right after ejaculation, or if you use it in the other method that I talked about, which was having your partner ejaculate into it. But either way, it holds it in so it doesn't just run out, which I know could sound disgusting, but if you're watching this video. So anyway, yeah, so it didn't work for me, but that's fine. Or it may have worked if I had tried it more cycles. But I have decided to move forward and just go ahead and do IVF because I am 38 years old, and I did IVF when I was 35, and at that time I wanted to get my 35-year-old eggs, um, and have them preserved. And it didn't work out that way. Although my IVF was successful, it didn't work out where I had a lot of embryos and eggs preserved because I didn't. And so, to hopefully resolve that this time, in this way, I can hopefully get my 38-year-old eggs that hopefully turn into embryos preserved. Um, I'm going to do some estrogen priming, or that's what my doctor has prescribed for this protocol, which is only my second round of IVF ever. So, like, my first round was successful, and it resulted in me having a baby, and she is now, as I mentioned, almost 21 months. So, here I am going to try round two, and so estrogen priming is for me, and again, I can't speak. I think there's possibly injections some people do, and there's possibly pills that people take. But my doctor decided to use patches, which I don't have yet, and I will have. And when I get them, I'll do a video to show and how you use them more in detail. But I believe they're called estradiol patches, which are estrogen patches that you put on your lower abdomen. And so I'm going to be using those um, prior to starting the injection. So, and the purpose of this is because, well, one of the issues that I had, or I think this might have been one of the main culprits um, for why I didn't produce as many eggs last time, is because I had some really large follicles that developed early on. And so in IVF, once you get your follicles get to a certain size, they have to trigger. So I only did the injections, I think for like 8 days. I think I was doing injections before we triggered. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm losing my voice. But But yeah, I only did the injections for like 8 days. So, and on average, you do them between 12 to 14 days. And I did 8 days. And it was just because like the follicles were just responding, and but not all of them. So I had some that were responding, and it looked like, I was going to get more, but I had some really large ones. And once they get really large like that, they have to go ahead and trigger. And so that was the end of my cycle. And so, unfortunately, when they went to remove or retrieve the eggs, they didn't find as many as we thought we were going to have. Um, so, what we're going to do, and what the point of the estrogen priming is, these patches shall hopefully not have any of the follicles develop prematurely. And so we're trying to keep them all in the same place so that when I start my injections, I won't have some, because, without any assistance, your body is going to develop because I think it's usually just one, yeah, and I'm not an expert on this. I think it's usually just one a cycle, because you do get the one egg, but follicles aren't necessarily eggs. Like, I had lots of follicles that looked like a good size last time, but they didn't all have eggs in them. And um, and that starts to happen throughout your cycle. So what the estrogen patches will do is will stop them from developing as like some running out ahead of each other or running out in front. So then once I start the injections, they should all hopefully be at the same place, and then, or at the same size, or roughly the same size. And then they'll hopefully, respond and grow together. That way I will have more thoughts that I'll have more eggs to retrieve, which is crazy because I have a high egg reserve. So I am not someone, this is something that they do sometimes when women don't have a high egg reserve. I actually have a high egg reserve. So it's kind of interesting that, this is the method we're taking, but it may also, we may also have me on a higher dose of medication than last time. I don't know. That remains to be seen. It's going to depend on my blood work and how everything is responding, and I'll keep you updated on that. But again, like I said, I actually have no diagnosed fertility issues. My FSH numbers are great. Every number they check is great. I have a high egg reserve. But my first cycle, they just didn't get as many, because I guess some were just larger already, and that caused, when I started, there were some that were already growing, because that's natural. That's what your body's supposed to do. And so when I started the IVF, it just ramped them up even more. When I started the medications, it ramped them up even more. And so those who were growing were, already to the point, and then we had to trigger. And again, it was successful, but it only resulted in me having 3 embryos that were viable. I had 6 eggs. 3 of them were mature, 3 of them immature. Immature are automatically trashed. And the 3 that were mature, all 3 of them fertilized, resulting in 3 embryos. I transferred back 2 of the embryos. One of them implanted, which is Michaela, and the other one did not. And the third embryo didn't survive, so that one was also disposed of. So it didn't survive to be frozen, so it wasn't even frozen. And so that's the thing. It's like a numbers game with IVF generally. I was just really blessed to have it work out with a little bit, because again, I have no diagnosed fertility issues, so my body just accepted back that embryo and was fine with it. But you know, so it's about getting more eggs so we can have more embryos. So that's the thing. Even if you get more eggs, you have to be mature. Even all the mature eggs don't always necessarily fertilize, and all fertilized which creates embryos, and all embryos don't necessarily implant and or survive. So to even be frozen. So that's why getting as many as you can get is what people want to do. And so the estrogen patch is going to be something that we hope will help me get to having more embryos, because for me, IVF was also about preserving fertility. And, if I decide later I want to have another kid, then hopefully I'll have some embryos frozen already. Don't have to start over from scratch. And, with all these, you still have to do injections. I'm not exactly sure how a frozen transfer works, but you don't have to do as many because you're not doing a retrieval. You're just getting your body prepared to do a transfer. So I'm not exactly sure how that works, but still, um, and for those, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but in New York State, I recently found out, I don't know if it's across the board, but if you are in New York State and you're interested in doing IVF or maybe even other fertility methods, you should look with your health insurance because apparently in New York State, health insurances companies have to offer 3 free IVF cycles. And so I actually didn't know that that was the case until I called my insurance to check about how much I had left because I have a lifetime maximum of $50,000 in my one IVF cycle that I did. So I did, going back, I have a total of $50,000, which is the lifetime maximum that I can use on IVF. But my insurance, if I chose to do IUI, that's not IUI. IUI is not even considered fertility methods for them. It's just under general insurance. I've never done an IUI, but there's no maximum on IUI, but just IVF is a $50,000 lifetime maximum on my insurance. My husband's insurance had a $25,000 lifetime maximum, so we chose to go from his insurance onto my job's insurance. So because of the $50,000 lifetime maximum, in case I needed it. The good thing is we could always go back to his insurance if necessary, but hopefully it's not. So after doing one complete IVF cycle, I ended up with having, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was over 41,000 left. So that tells you that one cycle of IVF, and like I said, it was over 40, it was like 41,000 something hundreds, wasn't even $9,000. Now I'm not saying that's cheap, but that just gives you an idea of how many cycles you can do roughly with $50,000. So in New York, and it may cost other different prices other places. In New York, my IVF cycle cost around $9,000. But that's also with insurance, and insurance is different, right? Because they'll charge different contracted rates to insurance that they would cost if you were paying out of pocket. So if your insurance doesn't cover IVF at all, they might try to charge you even more ridiculous rates where the insurance paying for it, they pay a contracted rate. And so I was able to do one cycle for roughly $9,000. So that doesn't include the meds. But my copay on my meds isn't actually that bad either. For the estradiol patches, the estrogen patches, called estradiol, my copay is $5, and I'm going to get 8 patches. You wear the patches for 2 days and you throw them out, and so that's 16 patches. 16 days, 8 patches, 16 days. I don't think I'm going to be wearing them for 16 days. My understanding is, and it's funny, I thought I was over ovulation testing because I've decided to move forward with IVF, and here we are. Here we are going to use the estrogen patches. You have to do ovulation testing, and once you get a peak, then, and I'm still a little fuzzy on this because the nurse she discussed it, but then she told me to call back when I get a peak. Then I think it's like 10 days after you get your peak, you start using the patches. So I think that's how it works. So right now I'm back into ovulation testing, which I didn't love doing because I was a little concerned that it wasn't accurate. They did tell me I could come in and do blood tests instead of doing the ovulation testing kit at home, but like blood testing every day, like doing that now and then going back and doing blood testing every day during IVF, there's a lot of time in the doctor's office. And again, I'm trying to reduce exposure. So I chose to do it at home, and I'm really hoping I get it right. I thought I got it right last time. I did get a peak on both my Clear Blue Advanced strips and on my Easy at Home strips. And and it was the same day, so the peaks lined up. So I was really happy that I had gotten it right. I'm just hoping that I can do that again, because now it's a little more important, because that's going to determine when I start my estrogen patches. So yeah, I was hoping to be out of that. A quick note about the Clear Blue Advance. I did say they were expensive, and they were. Like, one box cost me about $40 roughly. Excuse me. But I've been using that same box. So, you know, I used it in February, I used it in March, and then I'm going to use it again in April. You get 20 tests, but I only use the test. Well, I didn't do that in February, so I ended up using more tests in February. But that was my first time ever testing for ovulation. But last month, I only started the Clear Blue Advanced test once I got a peak, or not peak, I'm sorry. Once I started to notice that the easy at home test strips were getting darker, then I started to use the Clear Blue Advance to see if I was in a high point. And so that helped me save tests. So having both the cheaper strips and the more expensive tests helped me to stretch out using the Clear Blue Advance. So I feel like maybe it's not as expensive if you look at, over the course of several cycles, you can use one box. But anyway, so yeah, I'm trying to reduce exposure, so I didn't want to go in all the time. And New York is actually opening up COVID testing. They already opened it up to people 30 and older. And I think my understanding is starting this week, it's going to be 16 and older. So they're pretty much going to have everybody able to get, I said COVID testing. I meant COVID vaccinations. I'm sorry. Everyone's going to be able to get vaccinated in New York, like starting, I think it's April 6th or something. And so I thought about getting the COVID vaccine prior to starting IVF. So I talked to my doctor about that. She actually mentioned that, she said if I can get the one of the one shot vaccines, I can go ahead and do it. So I know Johnson and Johnson and maybe some other brands have a one time shot. I could go ahead and do it. But if it's a two shot, she told me to wait. And so and get it in pregnancy. So, but then she also told me you can't get it during the first, or they don't recommend getting the first trimester during pregnancy, because there's still some concern about vaccines causing birth defects or autism. I guess if you get it during pregnancy. So she said after the first trimester of pregnancy, then you would get the vaccine. So it's kind of like either or my option is to delay IVF. Which she said she didn't recommend doing, even though everything looks fine with me. But because everything looks fine, this is like a great time to do it, because at 38 and after 38, fertility starts to rapidly decline. So if I put it off, even though it could just be like, oh, let me put it off. Well, you think, how long I have to put it off? I have to get the first shot. I have to get an appointment for first shot, to get the first shot. And then like 20 days or so after that, I have to get the second shot. And then you have to wait a few weeks after that, because I was also told when I had already was going to schedule the first shot, and I was told that you're not supposed to give injections within 2 weeks of getting the first shot. So then you wait into that. That'll possibly put me, and who knows at what point my cycle will be when all of this is done. So I'll probably have to wait to the next month's cycle. So that'll put me possibly into the end of the summer, maybe, or maybe midsummer at earliest. But you think I wouldn't be able to do it April? May would be out. Or maybe May would be out because I'd be probably in the second shot. So maybe in June. June. So maybe early summer. I don't know. I don't know. That's if it all worked out. But I've decided to just go ahead and do my IVF cycle, and move forward with that, and then get the vaccine when I can get the vaccine. Whether if the IVF cycle is successful, then that'll be within pregnancy, I guess, whenever my OB says it's fine. Or if the IVF cycle isn't successful, then I'll readdress possibly just doing it and putting off the next cycle. So we'll see. But that's what I was told. Your doctor may say something else, because I read online that it was perfectly safe to get the vaccines while in the midst of doing IVF. But my doctor did say that she did not want me getting the second injection while I was doing the IVF injections, which is how it would have worked out. Like if I get the first injection, the second injection would have been while I was doing the IVF injections. And so they didn't want that. Um, if the second injection was after that, maybe that would have worked. But anyway, you're injecting yourself with all these hormones, and then then you're getting injected with the vaccine. So I think I think it's just you don't know what they really don't know what it's going to do to your body because they haven't had enough time to study how it would affect you in IVF and all of that. That's not saying don't get it. I really do want to get it. And I'm for everyone who wants to get it, getting it. I'm just saying, it's you got to weigh the risk, which is what the doctor told me. She was like, well, you got to weigh the risk. And I'm like, but then she did suggest I hold off on it. So, yeah. So that's, IVF in the time of COVID vaccinations and, what to do. But again, you have to make your own personal decision on what you're most comfortable with. Um, but that's just where I am right now. I'll keep you updated. And like I said, for those who, I don't know if the insurance is like, you have to be like a New York State insurance because, or your job has to be located in New York State. I think maybe that's what it is. If your job is in New York State, then I think there's some sort of law now that they have to offer 3 free IVF cycles. So if you're in New York, that's worth looking into. Other states may have that too. I don't know. I actually didn't even know about it until my insurance company called me when I told me when I called to find out how much was left on my lifetime maximum. The woman told me, "Hey, you have this 41,000 left, but you don't even have to worry about it now because you got 3 free cycles too. So go ahead and use." She's like, "You could go use those, and then if you use those 3 free cycles, then you will start using your the rest of the 41,000." So I'm hoping to not even get into all that. But a cycle is doing what I'm doing now from, start to finish to doing a transfer. That's a full cycle. And then a frozen transfer cycle is also considered a cycle. But I have 3 of those free before I even get into using up the rest of 41,000 that is left from my 50,000. So it's worth checking into. And that happened in 2020, and I wasn't looking into these benefits in 2020. And so that's worth looking into. So, just an FYI for those who may, because otherwise this would be ridiculously expensive, and I possibly wouldn't be doing it. The reason I was willing to go to it so easily is because I knew that my insurance was really good with covering it. But if not, I possibly wouldn't be doing it. Even with, like I said, the medications. My total copay for all my medications is going to come to like $170 something, and that's with everything. And I will go through that more when I get the medications, because I haven't gotten them yet, and I will be getting them soon. But just check with your insurance, and some times there's even grants and things that you can get. So look into those and see what happens with that. But all right, ladies, this is where I am now. I'll update you on ovulation testing until I get my peak, and then I will let you know. I'll have my estrogen patches on Tuesday, and I don't expect to have my peak before then. So I'll let you know how it works out and what goes on with these patches. And until then, take care. Oh, and again, happy Easter.